Hello and welcome to the third lesson in my Learning Siril Beginner's Guide. And today we're going to talk about colors and color calibration. And based on the image in front of us, we have quite the work cut out for us. In this guide, I'm going to show you a number of different tools that you can use in Siril to do your color balancing and color calibration. I'm going to show you all of these tools, even though a lot of them does the same thing and you can achieve the same result with a lot of them. But I want to give you a full toolbox of different tools that you can use so you can find the one that you like the most. And some of them might be better in some situations than others. So I just want to give you the full arsenal of tools available to you. I'm going to start with probably the most cumbersome one, but also the one that gives you the most control. So we're going to start by going into the generalized hyperbolic stretch transformation. I've already done a lesson on this. This is the second lesson. We're now in the third lesson. If you haven't watched this, you can go and watch this. Now, why is this image so like blue-green kind of color? Well, if we zoom in a bit here and we just stretch this out, you can see here that the red, green, and blue peaks, they're not really aligned up, like at all. And that's why the colors are way off. So the first step, if you want to do this manually, is to align these peaks up. So we're just going to find a zoom level that we like. Here seems probably fine. And I'm not going to go into too much detail with this. I'm just going to quickly line up these peaks. Again, I recommend you watch the second lesson because right now I'm just basically stretching the peaks individually to get them to a point where they are all kind of lining up on top of each other. So something like that looks okay to me. Okay. Now, notice here how our image, let's just check it actually on a linear. It's very dark. I'm just going to stretch this a little bit more so we don't have to be on an auto stretch. The reason why the image is so red right now is because you noticed at the beginning how the red peak was a lot dimmer than the green and the blue. And that means that we had to stretch the red peak a lot more in order to get them to align up. But that now means that the red peak, as you can see here, is a lot wider than the two others. And that's our problem. So what we're going to do now is we're going to try to widen those two center peaks, the green and the blue, to make them the same width as the red. So that hopefully should help balance our colors. So we're going to deselect our red. And again, I'm going to be aggressive on my tutorials in the interest of not having to sit here for hours stretching things out for a tutorial. So basically we're just gonna add some stretching, keep our highlight protection point relatively low here to protect our highlight, and then we can just basically see how much we need to stretch it and then adjust the position of it with our symmetry point. So we can see that we're getting close. We need to stretch it a little bit more, adjust with the symmetry, adjust with the symmetry point, and I think there is pretty good. I feel like those peaks, maybe we overdid it a bit on the stretching. I'm just gonna jump it down like there. Okay, I think this is decent. Now these are pretty similar in size, and notice now how our picture is a lot closer. It still maybe have a bit of a red hue, but you can also see that tail there is a little high down there. We could maybe try to sit and play around and fix it, but basically you just stretch those colors in place. So you lower your high point, you give it some stretch factor, and then you adjust the symmetry point so that it go back to the location. And then we can kind of stretch these peaks out slowly in place so we don't touch the peak location, but just adjust how wide they are. We can adjust like that. So that's one way of manually color calibrating everything on your own if you really want to. But realistically, that's not what we want to do because there are better tools. So we're just going to go back to the state here where we just aligned up the peaks. Everything is red. Now, the next tool we're going to look at is the we already done that. The photometric color calibration. Now, the way this works is you type in your target up here and you click find. I've already set this up, but you can see here it will then look up. You can choose what server. If one of the servers doesn't work, swap to another one. It will look up that target in a database and it will set your right ascension and declination. If you're shooting with the FITS files, then there's a good chance that these have already been set prior. And you can, of course, also set them manually if you have a target that doesn't really exist in the database for some reason. So make sure this is filled out. The next you need to do is make sure that your focal length down here and your pixel size is filled out. Focal length is pretty self-explanatory. It's focal length of your telescope. And the pixel size is the size of the individual pixels in microns that you used on your camera. If you don't know what this is, Google it. Just put your camera name followed by either pixel size. Sometimes it will also be listed as pixel pitch. So if you see that number, then that's the same. But look up that number, put it in here, just click OK. We can see the picture over here, magic happens, and it got quite a bit darker. Okay, I just stretched that up a little bit so we actually see what's going on, and we can see that from that very red picture we had before, we went up to this, which of course is a much better. I think there's a bit of a bluish hue on this, but we can try to do something with that in a little bit. But first, I just want to show you another way to achieve the same results. We're going to go back to this red state here where all the colors are completely off, color calibration, and color calibration again. This is kind of a more manual than the other one, but not as automated as the photometric color calibration. The way this works is you find a blank spot in the sky. So right here, for instance, where there's nothing. Then you select it with a box, and then you up here in background reference, you just set use current selection. You can see all these numbers should now be filled out. Next, we go and we find something that we say this is not background, so this is stuff that we are interested in. So let's say the very bright part of the nebula here. You go down here to the bottom and say use selection. Once again, you noticed all those numbers get filled out, and you click apply. And wabam, it tries to color calibrate based on of those two areas. So I find that this color calibration here is not always, in some situation, the photometric one is more accurate. And in other situations, I find that this is a better starting point for me to work from. It kind of depends. I think that often when I have problem with the photometric is if I'm shooting with, like I do here, with only 2 filters where I'm doing an HOO stack, so I only have hydrogen alpha and oxygen. Sometimes I think the photometric works better with color cameras than it does with these narrowband images, but try. You have the tools in your toolbox now, so you can use them and see what you like. It is quite common that you will end up with an image that has a green hue to it. I didn't in this case, it wasn't so bad at least. But if you do end up with an image that has a green hue, or maybe it's even more aggressive than this, what you do is you go up here to your image processing and you go to remove green noise. I usually just keep it on average neutral and this does nothing and just click apply, and then magic stuff happens and boom. I found with this image that it turns the red a little bit more yellow. I mean, I get a more of an orangey color than the deep red we had before without the green noise. And also sometimes I feel like the blue gets a little bit less vibrant. So you can use it, but it does also of course affect the other colors. But the green noise removal has a very, very cool effect that I want to show you as well. This is of course the famous Pillars of Creation taken by Hubble. This is actually a picture I just quickly put together from some of the original Hubble data. Now you can see the stars here, they're very pink. And there's an easy way to fix this. And this is actually a trick that the guys who run my Discord server taught me. I'm now going to teach it to you. Now what you do is if you end up with a Hubble palette and you end up with pink stars, which apparently is quite common, what you do is you go up here to image processing. We do a negative transformation, so we invert the image. So now we can see all the stars becomes green with a green halo. And now we can remove the green noise from the stars. They should become more blue, like so. And then when we now invert the image back with another negative transformation, now the stars have a more yellowish color compared to the red one they had before, which I think is a much better starting point than you had before. It's a very neat trick to very quickly just fix those pink stars in your Hubble palettes if you have them. Whether you're new to astrophotography or a veteran astro nerd, then I highly recommend you go and check out my book, The Cosmic Field Guide, over on deepspacebooks.com. This book is right here, and what you get in this is loads of different useful charts like darkness plots, so you can see when you get into civil twilight, nautical twilight, astronomical twilight, all that. That's made for different areas of the world. There are challenges in here you can try to complete if you want to try and improve your astrophotography game. There are formulas that you can use to look up like what is the field, like how much time can you use to take SOPs without tracking for wide field astrophotography. All the calculations are shown in here, formulas for all those kind of things. Like a dictionary if you're not familiar with some of the terms, if you're new in the hobby. There's loads of stuff in here, and it's neatly packaged with plastic on the outside so that it can take a bit of dew and you can have it outside. It's really meant to be something you take with you. Go check it out on deepspacebooks.com. We can go and use the generalized hyperbolic stretch transformation, and a lot of you will probably find this a little scary to work with, but bear with it. Say that I have a failed frame. Maybe we'd actually try to force that. So I'm going to go back and select my PP line.